Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening, my dear students. I would first like to welcome you all to the YouTube channel of Anjuman I Islam's A.A.K English Secondary School. I am your English teacher, Miss Tehseen Mistry, and today I have brought for you a very interesting, simple poem from your Standard 9th English textbook. So before we reveal the name of the poem, first let us observe a few images. So as you can see here on screen, the image that we see on the left hand side is of a small little dog sitting in front of a fan, and in front of the dog is a glass which has ice, and we can assume that the ice has started melting. So which season does this image represent? Yes, it represents the summer season. Similarly, this image on the right hand side, it very clearly indicates which season it is. As we can see, here in this image, we can see heavy snowfall taking place. So this indicates that it is the winter season. Now from seasons, let us move to another very different aspect of our English language, which is figures of speech. So we all know that there are different figures of speech, and one of them is personification. So we know that personification is when we give the quality of a human being, or when we give any human action to a non-living object, then the figure of speech is used is personification. For example, the moon was resting in the midnight sky. So here the moon has been given this quality of performing the action of resting. Resting or taking rest is the action performed by living organisms. But in this sentence, the moon is said to be resting. Similarly, Dad's alarm clock screamed at him to wake up in the morning. So here again, Dad's alarm clock is non-living thing, but it is given the human quality of screaming. So here again, the figure of speech used is personification. Lastly, the wind whistled throughout the night. Here again, the wind is given the human quality of whistling. So in each of these three sentences, we clearly have made use of this one figure of speech, that is personification. But why do you think are we talking about seasons and then we made a complete shift to personification? Because that is what we are going to very clearly discuss in our poem today. So my dear students, today we are going to discuss a very interesting, very simple, very beautifully written poem, Autumn. As we know, autumn is one of the seasons that we experience. But then why are we talking about personification? That is what we are going to explore in our poem. So let us get started. So first we will have a very quick recitation of the complete poem. Autumn. The autumn comes, a maiden fair, in slenderness and grace, with nodding rice stems in her hair, and lilies in her face. In flowers of grasses she is clad, and as she moves along, birds greet her with their cooing glad, like a bracelet's tinkling song. A diadem adorns the night of multitudinous stars. Her silken robe is white moonlight, set free from cloudy bars, and on her face the radiant moon, bewitching smiles are shown. She seems a slender maid, who soon will be a woman grown. So, isn't it a beautiful poem? Once, now that we have finished a recitation, we could very clearly understand that every line of the poem talks about the autumn season, and definitely the autumn season has been very clearly compared to a young woman, a young girl. So let us discuss the two stanzas individually and try to identify the main message of the poem. So here is the first stanza. The autumn comes, a maiden fair, in slenderness and grace, with nodding rice stems in her hair and lilies in her face. In flowers of grasses she is clad, and as she moves along, birds greet her with their cooing glad, like a bracelet's tinkling song. So before we come to the explanation, let us very clearly find the meanings of the new words. The very first word that appears in the first line of the poem is the word maiden. Maiden refers to a young girl. So please make a note of this new word in your textbook. A maiden is a young girl. The next new word that we see here is the word slenderness. Slenderness means thin. The word slender itself means thin. The next word is on line number 3, which means nodding. Nodding means to move your head up and down in the upward and downward direction. Next we have the new word in line number 5, which is the word clad. It means covered. Clad means covered. So these were the new words in the first stanza. Now let us see the explanation. This is the first stanza of the poem. The poet says that it is the onset of the autumn season. So from the first stanza itself, the poet clearly tells us that it is the onset, the beginning of the autumn season, the fall season. The poet has personified autumn in every line of the poem. So you take stanza number 1 or stanza number 2. In each of these lines, the poet has personified the autumn season. Personified, the poet has given some or the other human attribute to the autumn season. The poet compares autumn to a fair, white-skinned, young, unmarried girl. So for the very first, for us to understand the crux of the poem, the poet very clearly at the beginning is making a direct comparison. So the poet says that the autumn season is like a fair, white-skinned, young, unmarried girl. This girl is thin and graceful. So this young girl who is fair and who is young and unmarried, She is very thin and she is very graceful. She is very elegant. The girl has worn all natural ornaments that add to her beauty. So this girl is already naturally, she is born beautiful. And in order to, enhance her beauty, she is wearing ornaments which are made of all these little natural things like flowers. She has worn an outfit which is made of pretty flowers of grasses. So even the outfit that this young girl is wearing, it is not any ordinary outfit. It is an outfit which is made out of pretty colorful flowers. As this girl moves, all the birds around welcome her in their sweet voice, which sounds like the tinkling of a bracelet. So as this girl is walking from one place to another, all the birds around her on trees, the ones that are flying, the ones that are sitting by the road, all the birds, they are welcoming her in their sweet voice. And when these birds are creating those noises, it sounds like the tinkling of the bracelet. Similarly, according to the poet, autumn season is as pretty as this young girl. So, the poet is telling us that for him, the autumn season is as pretty, as beautiful, as refreshing as this young, fair-skinned, unmarried girl. The season looks very simple, but it is beautiful at the same time. So just like this young girl, she is thin, but she is graceful. Autumn season also looks very simple, very plain, but it is beautiful in its own way. Everything around looks pleasant. So everything, when you look around in the autumn season, all your surroundings look very pleasant, very different and very beautiful. Even though it is the fall season, but there is a mesmerizing quality about it. So despite of the autumn season being the fall season, that is, the leaves they shed during this season and the trees become bare. But despite of all these changes, the autumn season has a mesmerizing quality about it. It has a unique, fascinating quality about it. The season is not the end, but a beginning to everything new and fresh. So some people might think that the autumn season is the end of fresh season, but for the poet, the autumn season is not the end, but it is the beginning to everything which will be new, which will be fresh and definitely beautiful. Now let us move to the stanza, that is the final stanza of the poem. So this is our final stanza. A diadem adorns the night of multitudinous stars. Her silken robe is white moonlight set free from cloudy bars. And on her face the radiant moon bewitching smiles are shown. She seems a slender maid who soon will be a woman grown. Now here again we have a few new words. The very first word is the word diadem, which means crown. Please underline the word and mark its meaning in your textbooks. The word diadem means a crown. Then immediate next to this word diadem is the word adorn. Adorn means add beauty, something that adds to the beauty. Next we have the word multitudinous, which means numerous or many. Multitudinous would mean numerous or many. Next we have the word robe. Robe is basically a gown, a long gown. Then we have the word radiant. Radiant means shining. The radiant moon, the shining moon. Bewitching means charming. Something which charms you is bewitching. Now let us come to the explanation of the second stanza. So this is the second and the last stanza of the poem, where the poet describes the season even more. So in this final stanza, the poet is elaborating and giving a more detailed description of the autumn season. The poet uses the device of personification and says that a crown adds to the beauty of this young girl. So the poet is telling us that this young girl, she's already beautiful. She's wearing a natural flower made outfit. She's wearing ornaments that are all made using natural things. And she's also wearing a crown, and this crown is the icing on the cake. It adds to the beauty of this young lady. Her gown made of silk looks very pure and white when the moonlight falls on it. So he is talking about the night time now during the autumn season. So when this young girl is walking around and when the moonlight falls on her silk gown, the gown looks even more pure, it looks even more prettier, and it looks even more whiter. Also, when this moonlight falls on this girl's face, it clearly shows that she is a young girl who will soon turn into a full-grown mature woman. So here the poet elaborates that when this moonlight falls on this young girl's face, due to the moonlight, we can clearly make out that this young girl is soon going to turn into a full-grown, mature, and even prettier woman. Similarly, the autumn night looks even more prettier when the stars twinkle in the deep dark sky. So the poet is telling us that just like the daytime during the autumn season, the night time during the autumn season is even more prettier. So the night looks even more prettier because the stars, they shine, they twinkle in the deep dark sky. Also, as the moon comes up and its pure white light falls on everything around, they give a glimpse of heaven on earth. So the poet is telling us that along with the stars, twinkling stars, when the moon comes up in this dark sky and when this pure white moonlight falls on the surface of the earth, on everything that is present on the surface of the earth, the surroundings, they give a glimpse of heaven on earth. They look very heavenly, they look very divine. This beauty of the autumn season is charming and clearly shows that the season is not the end but a beginning to everything that would be new, pure, and beautiful. So this overall beauty that we can see in our surroundings, be it during the daytime or during the night time, this entire thing is very, very charming. It is very, very beautiful, and it clearly indicates that the autumn season is not the end of something, but it is the beginning, the start of something which is going to be very exciting, something which is going to be very new, beautiful, and very, very pure. So these were the two stanzas of our poem for today. Now let us quickly go back, move ahead and see what is the basic theme of the poem. The poem Autumn is written by Kalidas. So the poem is written by Kalidas. He is the poet. The poem is a personification. The entire poem is an example of personification, where the poet, that is Kalidas, has compared the autumn season to a fair-skinned, young, beautiful, unmarried girl. Now, this comparison that the poet has made in every line shows us how God has added a touch of beauty in everything around us, be it the fall season or the spring season. He has done this so that we can enjoy the beauty of nature, remember Him, and keep thanking Him for all that He has given us. So God has added a touch of beauty to every little thing around us so that we always remember Him, so that we keep thanking Him, Also, the poem teaches us that in life there would there would be many instances when we would feel that this is the end of everything. So the poem is also teaching us a lesson, a very important lesson. The lesson is that in life we come across many instances where we would feel that, maybe this is the end of our life, or this is the end of every opportunity that we could have in our life. But if we think about these problematic instances deeply, we would realize that it is not the ending, but it is the beginning to something which is better and more fulfilling. Therefore, having faith in Almighty and being happy and thankful in every situation will always help us to overcome the most darkest times of our lives. So, my dear students, I hope that this short, sweet little poem is clear with every one of us, and definitely we'll try to take this lesson from the poem, the lesson of being happy always, the lesson of having a positive outlook, the lesson of always being grateful to the Almighty. So this is all for today. Thank you very much, all of you, and have a great day.